Hello and welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and with me today is my good friend, John Bristowe. How you doing, John?
Good. I'm loving the background. It reminds me of the school photos I used to get back in the 80s.
Yeah, this is you can't really see it in the, with our faces.
There's a nice banana peel on the bottom there as well.
There's a race car with cats driving and lightning hitting the car. It's a fun little background I grabbed. It's like
fantastic.
80s retro, very developer centric. Like you said, I love it too.
Yeah. Who can ever fault you for not being boring there, Ed? I love it.
John, it's been a little bit. We didn't have a show last week. I was in London for NDC London. So I got to see some good friends while I was out there. I got to see Layla Porter and Chris Santee and Eagle Hansen and the Ingstroms, Jimmy and Jessica Ingstrom. So lots of amazing developers were in town for a really great conference. So I'm back this week, and then I'm off to Sweden to see many of those same people again. It's almost like a traveling circus.
Very good, except hopefully you'll be able to manage the spinning plates.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight real quick before we get started that I publish these links now on my LinkedIn page as a weekly newsletter. So you can find those up on LinkedIn. Just look for my name. It's right here in the lower third. So just search on the good old LinkedIn, find that, and you'll have all of the links that we mentioned today, most of which this week are provided by my friend here, John. Oh, John, where'd you go, my friend? When I'm about to throw him credit for supplying the links for this week's show, he vanishes into thin air. So we'll wait a second here, see if John comes back. But if you click through to developer news, hopefully John just closed the web tab out or something. We've got quite a few links here this week. And he's back. Wrong tab.
Right. Chrome crashed. I don't know what happened.
Chrome crashed. Oh, my. Don't get that very often. No. Lucky us. So, yeah, you can find those links for the show that we're covering now. And I was just saying, John, that you supplied most of these this week. So I'm going to let you do some of the talking here. We'll start off with the Interop 2023. Is this a conference or an article? What is this, John?
So web.dev is a website maintained by the folks on the Chrome DevRel team. They write a bunch of articles there, and they post updates as to where we are in terms of major browser support for various specs and standards, etc. And so this was an article written by Robert, Rachel, and Philip about the current state of specification support and standardization support across vendors. And so your Microsofts, your Googles, your Firefoxes, Mozillas rather, etc., Apple with Safari, WebKit, etc., where we're at when it comes to interoperability. And so they list 26 focus areas in this article about where we're at in terms of specification support for, kind of more of the edge cases, I would argue. So a lot of it revolves around things like CSS. A lot of it revolves around capabilities around things like, Flexbox, media queries, codec support, etc. The usual suspects. But I thought this was an interesting article to highlight some of those things.
Yeah. This one, color, space, and functions. I can't wait for that to be, I don't know how it's at 99%. There's a lot of color functions that we're missing that I'm looking very forward to having in the browser. So these are things like being able to mix colors on the fly, get color, parse colors from different types. So there's like, you saw probably a couple of them there. Let me flick back to it. So there's like RGB, HSL, HWB, LCH, and so on. So you can convert back and forth between these colors. That'd be like amazing if you could do that. Currently, you cannot. So there are functions that are being spec'd out to do all of those things. If we get that, I think we're going to start seeing SaaS start to lose some footing. There's a lot of stuff in CSS now that is starting to make SaaS kind of obsolete. So,
as long as I've been targeting the web ad, we've been having this promise and this discussion for years. The idea that just if we can just get over these last remaining areas, then finally the web will be a suitable platform. This, despite the fact that the web has been a suitable platform for well over 2 decades. So I think Interop is going to continue to be the march forward. I think that
absolutely,
we're doing a pretty good job, and I think that there's really no excuse. I think you can build pretty much anything these days.
Yeah. Web components is yet to take off as well, so it'd be interesting to see where that goes this year. So it's slowly gained some traction, but it just never really got into mainstream. Angular, React, Blazor, Vue, all of those things kind of took off, and web components just hasn't quite gotten there yet. So fingers crossed. It'd be cool if it did. Let's move on to a little bit of Go news, John. You're our resident Go expert.
Oh God. So Go 1.20 has been released. This was in a beta for a couple months, and not too many features that have been added to the language, but some compiler support improvements. The big one that I've seen in Go 1.20 or 120 is multi-error support. So oftentimes when you're throwing out errors, there can be more than one, and you can collect these as part of a function call, for example. And so Go 120 actually has now some better support for that. Lots of improvements to the tooling, lots of improvements to the library. The libraries and the tooling is where a lot of the work is being done these days, at least until we hit 2.0, which I guess is sometime going to be on our radar. But until such time, we'll continue to iterate. And the fact that it's a major release aligned version, meaning it's 1 point whatever, means that backwards compatibility is pretty much assured. Go is really good on the backwards compatibility front. So, if you're a Go developer, you're building stuff with Go, this is a pretty safe upgrade, and you'll probably see some niceties being added to the language, the libraries, and the tooling.
Nice. Why we ship most code on Friday. Is this an onion piece, or is this for real?
I think this is pretty legit. So I think that the premise of this article is basically to give folks a bit of a kind of a pep talk, saying, look, it's really not that bad as long as you put trust in your shipping systems. This is actually from a company called Railway that specializes in shipping software, much akin to Octopus Deploy. The idea here is that a lot of people fear shipping on Friday because, well, things can go wrong on Saturday and Sunday, obviously. And when no one's around, you don't want to be stuck on your weekend kind of debugging problems that may have occurred. The reality is, though, is that, shipping is more than just tooling. It's a process. It involves people, etc. And you really should never be afraid to ship when ready. And if you have a continuous delivery cycle and you have pipelines that work and you have philosophies and processes in place that make it congruent to that idea, then you should be shipping on Fridays. And I know that, it's gotten so bad now that on Twitter, there's a deploy on Friday tweet bot that will actually auto retweet anything that says Friday and deploy together in the same tweet. So it's built up that much of a reputation. So going ahead, I think that, I think if you automate and you test, there really should be no excuse why you couldn't ship on Fridays. So that's what this article is meant to try and address.
I'm fixated on this, John. Statistics are always about reading between the lines, in my opinion. And in the article, they're like, well, if you look at Saturday, there's less incidents. It's like, but do we have less users on Saturday? Is that why we have less incidents?
Exactly what I thought.
And then if you use that logic, then if you add up these, and I would also probably include Monday in that equation, you're at 22 plus 9, 31.
31.
31 versus. Okay, that's my analysis of it. I am armchair quarterbacking, of course. I didn't
That's
write
fine.
the article, but
Nope.
yeah, the stats are always open to interpretation.
I agree. So yeah.
All right. You will never be a full stack developer or career advice for the working web dev.
Yeah,
This
so the
this
term
sounds
full
like
stack
something
has
that's
been around
about
for a
to
while.
rub me the wrong way.
That's right. I pick all the good ones for you there, Ed. A full stack developer obviously is a developer who isn't isolated to a particular silo or vertical slice of an application. Rather, they're more on the sort of horizontal view of it. So all the way from the back end, all the way to the front end, and everything in between. And so the
Mhm.
idea there is that when you become a full stack developer or you apply a full stack development philosophy, you have a better sense of how the application works. You have a better idea or sense of where the application needs to know how to scale, etc. And um, I think the article here, which dates back to 2020, but has been reinforced by a number of developers because this is a growing trend, is that look, the reality is that being a full stack developer is a big ask. There's lots of moving parts and pieces, and that it's okay to, in some cases, simply focus on parts of the stack that you're concerned with. So if you're a web developer, knowing how to write T-SQL may not be in your purview. And so I think that there is some validity to that argument, but I also can see the case for doing full stack development as well, owning both ends of the pipe, being able to know how you want to call into the backend database, for example. These are important aspects to
Yeah.
consider. So, yeah, just an interesting article. I thought it would be interesting just to kind of make you a little bit emotional and upset there, Ed. So,
I generally dislike anything that has to deal with this anti full stack type of sentiment. Many reasons. One of them is I think it gives people that don't want to, they themselves, learn all this stuff, which you don't have to be like, you can specialize in one thing, but you also don't have
sure.
to enforce that methodology on the rest of the world. So if you want to focus on just Angular and be the world's most prominent Angular expert, go for it. That's fine with me. But to pretend like people aren't capable of doing this and have no place in doing this, I think that's absurd as well. And I think it all has to come down to career length experience. Like you don't hit this overnight. This is a pretty good reason why. You've got many different things to be an expert on. If you look over here on the right hand side, and there's a lot of different concepts to grab here. But there's also a lot of things that are kind of shared across all of this. Like, for example, preprocessors. Well, that's kind of just like compilers for, your typed languages and things. So I mean, preprocessors and compilers aren't all that different. Um, your markup, if you're going to do any kind of front end, there's some kind of markup involved. Those all have to do with some kind of DOM. So like a lot of this stuff gets reused. What's probably really hard is people that want to work in maybe the front end of things and they're not really great with design systems and color and the more artsy side of things, but that actually can be
Mm,
learned, believe it or not.
yep.
So while CSS might seem hard, maybe you're not that visual learner type of a person, or express yourself visually, like that stuff can be kind of difficult, and I can see where people get stuck there. But over the years of working on stuff, just different types of applications and things, and out of necessity even, I mean, I've learned pretty much everything's on this list at some point in time. And if I needed to pivot into one of these things, I definitely could. It might take me, a week or something to brush up on some specific subjects to, get familiar with things. And this is where the experts come in
Right.
handy, because I can reach out to somebody
Yes.
that's highly specialized in one of these things and pick their brain and kind of get up to speed on something. But I by all means don't need to relearn it from scratch. Now,
Mm,
another thing I don't like about this is it puts people also in the mentality of that this is impossible and nobody can do this stuff. And if people had that mindset, we wouldn't. And I'm using this as an example. Maybe you may not like this product, but if people had this mindset, then things like Facebook wouldn't exist. Like, do you
Hmm.
think that some of these apps that were coded up as a dorm room project didn't have somebody that was kind of dabbling in the full stack before that proof of concept was built and that product
Right.
was shipped? I don't think they were too worried about that. When things like Facebook were being developed in a dorm room, it's like, if you have the guts to kind of embark on the full stack thing, then by all means go for it and try to learn as much of it as you can.
Here, here.
Saying you'll never be a full stack dev is just kind of absurd in my opinion. It's like, there's multi-talented people in every industry, and what always shocks me and surprises me is, like, you look at the entertainment industry and you see somebody that they're an excellent, like, stand-up comic, for example, and then you find out, oh, they can do really serious roles too. Oh, and they can sing. And
I hate them already.
you're like, okay, and you're an amazing writer, and like the list just keeps going, and it's like, well, you can't be great at everything. That's a bad position to have on the world.
Sure.
There's some really, really multi-talented people out there. Don't underestimate them. If you do, they'll probably have your job, to be honest, or they're going to be your boss. One of the two. All right, get off that pedestal for a minute. TypeScript.
Yes.
What's new in TypeScript beta?
Yeah, they announced the beta release of TypeScript 5, which is fantastic. The big change here is support for decorators. So decorators is this idea that I can denote or attribute, sort of akin to attributes in .NET. This idea I can apply these things to functions and types and have plumbing integrated as part of the runtime. A bunch of other things as well, but decorators is the big one. So this is an upcoming ECMAScript feature, allows you to decorate classes and their members, and so you can get reusable parts of your application. They list an example here where you have a person that outputs console statements, and then they add a decorator to put more logging statements. It's sort of, people have visions of attribute-based programming, etc., but that's kind of the idea. And there are some mission capabilities there. Lack of metadata support, for example, but it is a step, I believe, in a nice direction. May not be the correct direction, but I think it will add some niceties to the language. And I think my favorite quote there was, "What's the deal with all these any's? What is this, any script?" So that was quite good. Yeah, so the example here they provide is a logged method, and then that will emit the log statements that you saw earlier. So using an attribute, that is what a decorator looks like. It's very Java-like in a sense.
It's like aspect and oriented programming, kind of.
Correct. Yeah, a little bit like that. Although, the way that the plumbing works is going to be a bit different. But the idea here is that with decorators, you can change the plumbing and change the runtime heuristics. At least that's my initial take on it. So, yeah.
Seems like something you could possibly do with functional programming already. That's my take.
I claim that this was the right way. I said it is a way.
This looks like a very object-oriented way to do this type of behavior, when you could also have a property or a parameter in here of a function of some logging capability that gets run here, and then you pass it in through the constructor and it would do the same thing. But that's me. I'm just
this is a beta, Ed, so you can provide feedback.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad idea or anything. I'm just saying it's sure. Something that can be accomplished currently with functional methodologies, but people that are doing OOP are not necessarily thinking in those terms. So maybe this is a good thing because people don't think in those terms.
So if you're at all interested in getting started with this, obviously it's pretty easy to do inside the context of VS Code. There's a TypeScript Nightly extension you can grab there that gets you access to the nightly builds for TypeScript. And if you want to play around with this, that would be one way to do it.
Ouch. The only way to get jQuery working in TypeScript. All right, John. We've got a tweet, and
Yes.
assuming this is regarding ChatGPT, and
Yes.
can ChatGPT replace Google?
Yeah, this is from a gentleman by the name of Paul Buchheit, I believe his name is. He was one of the creators of Gmail, I believe, or worked on Gmail. He was one of the early employees at Google, and his tweet reads as something to the effect of, Google is out to lunch in a year or two. Total disruption. AI will eliminate the search end result page, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah,
um, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that there's a lot of hype, obviously, around GPT. We've been talking about GPT for months, so I would like to say that we called it. I remember talking about GPT 3 well before ChatGPT. Yeah, I think that it's got all the momentum. It's got all the VC funding, that's for sure. We'll see what happens.
So I was talking to a very wise person this week. I won't call them out by name just because I'm going to share their idea, and I don't know if they want to be linked back to the idea. But their argument was along the lines of this, that Google has nothing really to worry about in this space, because as powerful as ChatGPT is and machine learning is, the training for these models isn't being done on the frequency that you need for search results. So Google is like constantly indexing the web for its search results that you get when you type in that search box. And for the AI to constantly be trained to do a similar task would be very difficult. So I don't know if, what did they say, in 2 years or something on here? Their estimate, yeah, a year or two away from total disruption, unless this ChatGPT is going to be trained on the entire web's index on a regular daily basis or something like that. Then they probably don't need to worry that much. But we'll see.
All right. I'm on the fence.
Very wise person that I heard that idea from, and I hadn't thought of it that way before. I was like, oh yeah, the model training, any kind of model training, like for machine learning, is a time-consuming process and lets us very minimal data. And the higher that data gets, the more data you have, the higher that training algorithm takes. So to learn that model over and over again to keep current search results sounds very difficult. Where this is nice for producing, it produces results that don't necessarily have to deal with something that happened 5 minutes ago. Like if there's, a war breaks out somewhere and you're on Google searching for, war between country A and B, you want search results. Where if the chatbot hasn't been trained within the last couple hours, you're not going to catch that, and to train it on that much data is going to take too much time.
I hear you. The analogy I think that might help people is GPT is kind of like, the Netflix of, of a snapshot of the state. Whereas live television is kind of like Google in that sense. You don't kill your live sports package because you want to watch the NFL or the NHL or whatever. I will say that GPT-4
Findle has a great point
going to be in. Yes. That's very small though, $2.5 million per month.
But that's on the current cycle. If you're trying to ramp that up to compete with Google results, that $2 million is going to be like a lot more than that.
Look, I'm not privy to the inner workings of this. I do know that the GPT-4 training set is vastly larger than the 3.5 one that's exposed through ChatGPT. So we'll see what happens there. I could easily see an index of sorts being incorporated as part of the language model. So we'll see.
Yep. The State of Developer Ecosystem 2022, John.
Yes.
This is
by
JetBrains.
JetBrains, our friends over at JetBrains. They know They know a few things about the developers ecosystem, don't they? They
Yes,
have a
they
few
do.
tools, don't they?
It
So
looks like
they
their
interviewed a bunch of.
specialties are Python, Go, Rust, Kotlin,
Yep.
TypeScript.
Yep.
So
So
is this similar
this is
to
something they've been
the
doing.
state of CSS and stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. So they've been doing this for a number of years. I think this is their 6th year that they've been doing it, and the results really aren't that surprising. I mean, JavaScript's number one. They've got a lot of folks liking their tools. Big surprise. So, but I think the reason why surveys like these are important is because it gives you a sense of what's coming. Am I on the right
Mhm.
path? Do I need to align myself differently, et cetera, et cetera. So yet another data point.
Yeah, interesting to see some of these kind of dip a little bit and then grow back again. Get Rust going down a tick and then back up 3. C# as well, like drops 1, goes up 2. That's interesting. I love these, and we're too short on time. We should probably maybe revisit this again next week
Mm,
when we have a little bit more to talk about, or time to talk about it, because I think there's probably a lot of good stuff in here.
sure.
And I know you have a hard out today, so let's move on past
Sorry about
this. We'll come
that.
back to that one soon. No, not at all.
Yes. So this is Git-Sim. This is just a way of visualizing how to do how Git operations are done on a repo. So when you do a branch or you do a rebase or
Mhm.
a fork, etc. This is basically a way of visualizing it. It's a tool that allows you to visualize it quite nicely, and they talk about how to install and download it. So if you're at all interested, if you don't understand why cherry picking is doing what it's doing or anything
Mhm.
like that, this is something you can use to help visualize that.
My main takeaway here is I'm going to start naming all my branches after cheeses.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing from now on.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Astro 2.0. I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
Astro.
this was
What is an
awesome.
Astro?
Yeah. Yes. What is an Astro? Astro is a very growing in popularity web framework. We actually use it for one of our sites at octopus.com. It's really nice. It provides a really nice way of structuring web content in what are called Astro islands, and you can combine. One of the nice things I've seen used for it is for combining Markdown and structured markup as well, and you
Hmm.
get full type safety as part of the experience. Super fast. The tooling around this is super awesome. I was going to mention the acquisition of Gatsby by Netlify recently, but in terms of a competitor, but these and other frameworks which are focused on speed and static generation, whilst using a UI framework like React, for example, these are becoming very, very popular, and so Astro 2.0 is, I think, going to be really interesting going forward. This is the new hotness.
Yeah. This is what we call a meta framework. So you're supposed to use it along with React, Vue, Svelte, those
Mm,
things. These are going to be very popular. These meta frameworks.
yes.
There's quite a few of them. What's neat is the folks over at Microsoft are keeping an eye on all these meta frameworks and baking in some of the best features, or getting ready to bake in some of the best
Yep.
features from these. Cherry picking,
Yep.
what do they think
Yep.
works into Blazor? So it's all going to be just part of the normal Blazor workflow. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this has got a really good support in VS Code as well. They have an extension for Astro.
HTTPie AI. Did I say that
Yes.
right?
Yes, you did. So this is basically a very simple. So it's somewhat akin to Postman, but what they've done here is they've added. This is you see this in all kinds of tooling going forward. There's AI capabilities in CLI tooling that I've seen, and what
Mm-hmm.
they've done is they provided basically a language, a human-oriented language description for HTTP requests. And so if you want to structure, you know, if you want to use a tool like this and structure your queries in a way that kind of makes sense to you, this is one way to do it. So adding AI capabilities for natural language input is kind of another hotness that's coming on board. And so this is something
That's
that
pretty
they've
cool.
announced. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. So something we even
I've
debated on
always
our side when we built out our new CLI.
always been a big fan of semantic URLs. So the words that you give your endpoints make
Yep.
semantic meaning, so they're easy to follow and discover and all of that. So I think this kind of aids to that. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
This is an article, or an article.
This is so
John,
creepy,
which-
dude. This is so
This is
so
epically creepy.
Oh my god.
Um,
I saw this. I was like, oh my god.
Why is my oops not Zoom? Come on, where's my? There it is. So
Yeah.
this is more, but like AI, huh?
Oh god.
You see what I'm doing there? Yeah, you follow me?
Get out.
AI, John. AI. So, what this does is, like we're podcasting here now, and I've got a camera on me, and I'm always looking over to the live stream to my right, on my right monitor, which on your screen may be my left. But anyway, what this would do is redraw my eyes facing forward towards the camera. Thank you, but no thank you. Like, I'm not sure I need
right?
this. And
This is creep factor 10,000.
yeah, I don't know if I need something messing with my physical eye, like where it's being drawn. And I can see this like going awry and like drawing like a third eye in the middle of my forehead, like I'm Doctor Strange or something.
It's actually pretty good.
But
Look, I got to give the engineers credit. It works pretty well from the demos I've seen. It's just really creepy.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this touches like uncanny valley territory. Yeah, sorry for the background noises there. I thought I had that turned off. Couple more here, John. Are you hitting your heart out here, man? Or you got a second?
I've let some folks know that I'll be running a little bit late, so we've got a few more minutes.
We're almost done anyway, so
yes.
Happy you could stick around. Why you should take more screenshots? What is this about?
Yes. Well, screenshots. I've said many times on this show, pictures worth 1,000 words, and a demo's worth 1,000 pictures. So screenshots are a nice way of preserving the state of work. It embodies a lot, and so I would get into the habit of knowing the key bindings of screenshots. And so what the argument being made here is the fact that, rather than typing something up to describe something, just take a screenshot, throw it into a folder, toss it there, reference it whenever you want. You should take screenshots more often because they will preserve the state of the world, whatever it is you're looking at, an application, whatever, data.
Yeah.
And then you've got it for reference later on. I do this all the time. I take at least 10 or 20 screenshots a day.
There have been a time or two where I have forgotten where I've placed a file and remembered I had it open on a live stream and gone to the live stream and watched me open the file. So I remember where it was. So I can see where this could be handy.
Sure.
Yeah, every OS has it built in, and there's some additional handy tools like TechSmith's Snagit that I use all the time. So yeah, sure, why not? 100 million developers with laser beams attached to their heads.
I know. This is exactly the thought I had, was what a missed opportunity. They could have the Dr. Evil with the pinky. Well, GitHub announced that they just hit 100 million developers. Only 100 million. Look at that hockey stick. Congratulations to GitHub.
All the developers.
I know. Congratulations to GitHub. Job well done. Here's to the next 100 million. I've been a member of GitHub since, I think, 2008. I know that last year was by far my most green year in terms of activities. So I'm using GitHub just more and more than ever before. And I wish them all the best. And I think that GitHub has provided a fantastic platform for coding and for developers. And I think that they continue to evolve the stack. And I think it's fantastic.
Ooh, Rocketman says, I wish I took a screenshot of the detailed Word template I killed in my dev environment this morning. In a couple hours, I'll never get back. Oh. True. I mean, hopefully you sent that as an email somewhere or something before you blew out your machine. This is kind of an odd item, but I thought it was kind of interesting, maybe cool. Rolling out this month is the official Microsoft Teams plugin for Stream Deck. So streamers, if you have a Stream Deck laying around, and you also use Teams very frequently, this might be the right thing for you. So
I love
these things. So I had this talk with my wife the other day, who's not a techie person. They had on the show Shark Tank. I don't know if you're familiar with it, John.
I am.
Okay, so on Shark Tank, this guy gets on there and has claimed to invented the copy paste keyboard. It's like 2 keys for copy and paste. And I'm like, dude, this this has been in every nerd like website as a kind of a tchotchke item since I can remember. You did not invent this.
Yep.
And my wife's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm just ranting at the TV. I'm like, this is not this guy's invention. He's just kind of copied a gimmick that has sold on every geek website since probably 2005, and that's kind of where my Stream Deck ended up. So it's a gimmick for me. Like, I tried to be productive with it and taking my hands off of my physical keyboard, where I just have a keyboard shortcut like copy and paste, and move it to yet another keyboard that doesn't have that tactile functionality. Just didn't work for me. Maybe people are different. I don't need a little keyboard off the side of my other keyboard to do things that I can just control press as my normal workflow. So maybe if you're like streaming, like Jeff Fritz does a lot of Stream Deck stuff. He loves his. I just could not get used to it. And then finally, before you go, John, I had to bring this up. I don't know if you saw this.
Okay. No, I did not.
So you'll probably think this is stupid, but yet absolutely wonderful at the same time. At least I did. So this started off as it's a live stream, and the guy's doing a live stream by let's see if I can find the game he's streaming. I want to say it was like a Pokemon game or something like that.
Oh goodness.
So the idea here is he set up a webcam on a fishbowl that had a virtual grid laid over the top of it, and wherever the goldfish would swim would equate to some sort of input on a Nintendo joystick or a button, thereby letting the fish play video games. Okay. So at some point, the guy walks around at the 1,144 hour mark. He's not attending, he's not watching this happen. The game crashes, so it's unattended, and the fish keeps swimming.
But inputs are still being inputs are still being thrown into the game console.
It reboots the game console, and as it's inputting things, the fish pulls up the Nintendo eShop entirely by chance and spends a whopping $4 before before anything else really goes awry.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. This is the worst part. Exposed his credit card information to everyone watching.
Oh no.
The unintended consequences of letting
that fish knew what he was doing. That fish knew what he was doing.
Nintendo. So
look at his eyes. The eyes of a killer.
I could see you, John, appreciating like the nerdiness of letting your fish,
this is
like
awesome.
the technology behind letting the fish play, but also being annoyed at the absurdity of letting your fish play Nintendo.
Love it.
So it ended up backfiring on him, and it's just a really unique story. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I thought it would be a good share. And with that, John, we'll go ahead and let you go and get down to business. So thanks again for joining us, folks, and we will see you not next week because I'll be in Sweden hanging out with lots of great people again, but the following week we'll be back, John, and hope to see you soon. I'll talk to you later, everybody. Take care.
Take care.